Okay, so we celebrated Easter, and then the Pope just passed
He
away
said,
after meeting what he was like, JD Vance, I need to get away from you.
he said, it is finished. He said it was
Right.
finished. Just take me home. Take me to the king. But seriously, prayers go out to the Catholic community on the
Yeah,
loss of the Pope. I liked Pope Francis. And I
I did.
remember his like the conclave in which he was elected because, well, I'm not Catholic and don't have a ton of interest in Catholicism. I
Mhm.
love a good pomp and circumstance moment. And the Catholic Church serves it right on up with their traditions and whatnot around the death of a pope. So I'm here really for all of that coverage over the
Like
next
the
several
smoke
days.
and yeah.
Oh yeah, the smoke when we still don't have any smoke, so smoke lookout. The even the burial rituals. So like burial, open coffin, and he's in all the garbs. And from what I understand, the plans he laid out for his funeral were much simpler than what is traditionally done for a pope. His funeral doesn't have as much pageantry and pomp and circumstance
Well,
as there would
I
normally be.
he truly was a Pope of the people. All you have to do is look at 2020. He was an amazing man. I'm obviously not Catholic either, but I am Episcopalian, and so we like the pomp and circumstance as well. But I don't know, there was something about him that I am, I was even sad, and I think it's wild that he passed away the day after Easter. Like he participated in the service, he wrote the homily. He didn't, give it, but he wrote it.
So I was just like, what happened? Like, I was like, wait. He died? So,
Yeah. Well, and
incredible.
he had just seen JD Vance, aka the bearded backpedaler. And let's just take a quick look. Okay, so look at his face. I mean, I know it was caught, but like he didn't even want to actually have the formal meet and greet.
No, because Pope Francis was very much like, hey, what the Trump administration is doing to people is wrong. He appealed to the human rights side. And it kind of goes back to what you were saying. He is a Pope of the people. And I remember hearing his story about how because he was a cardinal in South America and just I think on the streets of Brazil, he was known for being very personable, touchable. You could go to him. And so this is the antithesis of what he stood for.
Yeah. Well, and then I just couldn't resist throwing this one in because my bestie, Caroline, is retweeting Trump saying that he and Melanoma are super excited to go to the funeral of Pope Francis in Rome. And to me, that just, I don't know, like, I'm not excited to go to funerals, especially those of,
Yeah. So keep in mind, he is not a wordsmith. He's a
yeah.
propagandist. And so is she. And what they probably should have said, which is kind of what we say in the Black church, we'll be attending the celebration of life ceremony, and we look forward to celebrating a life well lived.
There we go.
May have been
To me,
better.
it just, I don't know. And then the whole Italian flag, I'm like, he's not Italian. And the Vatican isn't technically Italian either.
It's the Vatican. It's its own country. They have a Secretary of State and all the things. They're its own little country right there.
But when you go to a private liberal arts university that has an acceptance rate of something like 85%, that kind of stuff just kind of passes you by. And then I just couldn't resist throwing this in because she's missing her upper lip again, and her baby looks like he's 40.
She
Sorry.
does not look like she's in her 20s.
I know. And
Does
then
not.
just the final one that again, just, what is wrong with the White House Twitter account?
Maybe you want our culture, but not our blues.
Yeah,
They can
it
go
is.
somewhere with that. They can go somewhere with that.
It is
I wonder who's running
completely
social
unhinged.
media. I would love to see who is behind their social media team.
Me too, because when it came out who had been behind Biden's, I mean, she was a 20-something and she did a great job. But whoever is running it now, they are unhinged and they need some serious help. But it has to be like because the Easter egg roll is lit with Trump
Like, that's
dan
like,
saying
"Okay, boomer. Okay, boomer."
yeah. I was like, "Gah."
That's an okay boomer moment.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's that.
This never stops.
No, it doesn't. Absolutely doesn't. And then while we're talking about Twitter and Trump, let's talk about the lies he's telling. Well, he and the White House Twitter account and anyone involved with the Trump regime. That grift father is just telling all the lies about Kilmar Abrego Garcia. I mean, they are throwing the propaganda like crazy.
It's a propaganda machine. This is classic propaganda. Classic.
Really, it is.
And I think we have to realize this for what it is. It is propaganda. They're using the tools of the moment, so social media, things like that, to get to people, but it's propaganda. A lot of MAGA supporters don't see it for what it is, but he is spinning the narrative his way.
And there's been a lot of talk about like because that's why I zoomed in on his knuckle tattoos and like they added the MS and then other people are saying no, they're just trying to label it to explain. And either way, like I also don't know. Maybe he is part of MS-13, but there doesn't seem to be any like outside of these knuckle. I mean, I have knuckle tattoos, right? Am I in a gang? Like there doesn't seem to be any actual proof that they have provided. I mean, it's similar to Doge, just saying, "Oh, we're
Hmm.
cutting all these," but they're not. And I get that it goes along with the whole authoritarian playbook, how to become an authoritarian in 90 days. But I thought it was interesting then on Reddit, I found some actual MS-13 tattoos, and those just look a little more aggressive to me. But
They are.
yeah. And then the White House saying if it looks like a duck, swims like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then it probably is a duck.
It's propaganda. So I'm not certain to believe it or not because their propaganda machine is so quick. A lot of it's untrue and they continue to press forward with the lies and they've been caught in so many lies that makes it hard to believe anything that might possibly be true.
Well, yeah, because they're doing the whole gaslighting propaganda. Don't believe what you saw. What you saw didn't actually happen.
Yeah. And that's part of their attempt over time for people not to trust the media. They don't want people to trust mainstream media. And so that's why when you repeatedly hear something called fake news, think about it, that has entered our lexicon.
Mhm.
And so people have internalized that. And there are a lot of people who believe it now. So the propaganda machine doesn't stop, and every chance they get, they're pushing a piece of propaganda.
Well, and I thought this was interesting that they fixed the New York Times headline with Senator meets with wrongly deported Maryland man in El Salvador, scratched out the wrongly and the Maryland man. So it's supposed to, I guess, read Senator meets with deported MS-13 illegal alien in El Salvador who's never coming.
We're paying them to hold him. This is wrong on so many levels. And again, I have an issue with this that so called Christians, moral majority, have aligned themselves with this. So this is how we treat people. This is how Jesus would have treated people. So please don't stand there and lecture me on what Jesus would do. Don't pontificate on Christ.
Well, they're all faux Christians, remember?
I mean, they are, but a lot of people believe they're standing on the side of righteousness in the Bible and he's returning this country back to the way it should be. But we're going to be judged on how we treated the least of these. So
Well,
yeah,
I mean, Tony Stark's discount cousin's own AI is saying that the Trump regime would deport Jesus. So, I mean,
that's
like,
sad, but
yeah. Well, and I know we hadn't actually talked about this, but I also wanted to mention Senator Chris Murphy of Connecticut got a text message and posted it on Twitter and it had to remain anonymous. The person who texted them had a friend who worked at the FDA and had gotten laid off, right? Had gotten fired after the courts said, no, they got to have their jobs back. Well, this person had gotten their job back, was put on administrative leave, paid. Well, they got a new job, right? So then they tried to submit, because they couldn't start the new job until they had quit their government job. They had tried to quit, but the person who processed those had also been put on paid administrative leave. So there's no one there to process any of these requests. So they're spending money, they're paying these people to not work when some of them are even trying to fully quit so they can go work elsewhere. So how are we saving money? Because we're paying all this money to El Salvador for the concentration camps. We're paying all these government employees because courts are saying they have to have their jobs back, but the golden toilet goblin and company I don't understand. We're spending more money than we would have been.
It was never about saving money, my dear. It was never about saving money. It wasn't. I mean, we've spent well over 10 or 15 million, maybe over 20 at this point, for him to golf. This was never about saving money, but that crowd believed it was. It was about destroying the systems of power so that certain people could make more money, because we're in a situation where he is allowing Elon Musk to get more and more government contracts, which is clearly a conflict of interest since he works for the government. And we're going to be put in a position where we're tied or reliant upon a bunch of his technology that just is not going to make us safer. I mean, he's proven that a bunch of his technology doesn't work. It does not work. So, but we're still relying on it. We keep blowing up rockets, and then we come back and say that was part of the plan. We're still just early testing.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'm
it's
sorry.
very similar to when they, well, we're gonna make mistakes and
So
we'll
everything
hire
is
them
an
back.
excuse. Everything's an excuse. And, I'm over it. But speaking of excuses for poor secretaries of defense,
You mean Colonel Whiskey? Or should I say Secretary Whiskey? Does he prefer? How about
babe,
Secretary Bullet Rye? I'm not 100% sure what, I mean, the one day it looked like water, so maybe Secretary Vodka?
listen, I'm not sure what his issue, situation, he needs help. I think he believes being put in that position made him invincible, made him kind of
Oh,
bulletproof, so to speak. Like, nothing was he was untouchable. So you got in trouble for the first signal chat, but then thought it was a good idea to start another one?
yeah. Yeah.
Why did we
And
think that?
well, and I just want to make it really clear. I am not making I have some very dear friends who have suffered from alcoholism. I just want to make that clear, that not making fun of
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that disease. However, he needs help and they want to be assholes, so I'll be an asshole back. Now, I have two little options for media for you. I have a video of him from the Easter egg hunt at the White House. And then I also just have some tweets about what's going on with good old signal whisperer Pete. So which would you like first?
Tweets, please. Tweet me.
Tweets, please. So first off, we just have the Midas touch. Love the Midas touch. They were talking about the fact, like you just said, Signal group chat, including his wife, brother, and personal lawyer.
And why would we think, though, that that's good?
Now, we even have Don Bacon coming out, who is a Republican, calling for his resignation because, like you said, he is acting like he's above the law
Yeah.
and he shows he's an amateur person.
And I didn't know this. I didn't know that Representative Bacon said this, but I mean, he's right. He thinks he's invincible, and he is not. He needs to be held accountable. And they were warned that Signal is not secure.
Mark Kelly has been saying the same thing out of Arizona. He's acting like he's above the law. He's showing he's not a serious person, but it means a lot more when someone like Bacon is saying it.
Mm-hmm.
So I just threw this in as well because obviously this all kind of got started back up again because on Friday we had Joe Casper resign and then we had three were fired from the Pentagon. So why aren't we getting rid of good old Pete?
Who knows? Good old boy network.
All right.
Mhm.
So this is a state senator, Chris Larson, out of Wisconsin. And I just found this one really fun. We really have to knock it off with these DUI hires.
That's right. I mean, let's call a thing a thing. And
Right.
it was documented that
Yeah.
that he went during his confirmation hearings, that he had a booze problem. And then he went to some summit, like right after he got confirmed, and it looked like he was drinking whiskey during his speech in
He's
front of
drinking
like all of,
water.
yeah, in front of all these people. I mean, I think he has an issue. He has an issue. And again, it's okay if you have an issue, but get the help. And you're not fit for office right now. You're not fit for office.
Absolutely not. And it's impressive because it's always, "Oh, well, it's, it's just fake news stories and all this stuff." And I'm like, they can't all be fake,
Hmm.
right? Because, like the White House said, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck.
Hmm.
Well, he's stumbling
Allegedly.
and slurring and swirling.
Something's going on.
So yeah, it's just, and again, if he needs help, I just want him to face it and go get help. But he has absolutely no business being in charge of the Pentagon.
Correct.
So do you want to hear
Correct.
what he had to say?
Signal chat controversy.
What a big surprise that a few leakers get fired and suddenly a bunch of hit pieces come out from the same media that peddled the Russia hoax. Won't give back their Pulitzers. They got Pulitzers for a bunch of lies. See, this is what the media does. They take anonymous sources from disgruntled former employees, and then they try to slash and burn people. And my kids, because, this is what we're doing it for. These kids right here. This is why we're fighting the fake news media. This is why we're fighting slash and burn Democrats.
Okay, so a few things about that clip. So again, part of the propaganda machine to call it, fake news, not real headlines, fake Pulitzers, when that's the highest award, sir, and you'll in journalism, and you'll never be able to get one. Never, never. But then it's real rich of him to call Democrats slash and burn. What are the Democrats out here slashing and burning? That's real rich.
Yeah.
The irony, I'm sorry, who's trying to take away Head Start? Who's freezing federal funds from public schools?
So, I mean, if you're paying attention, they always say what they are doing, but gaslight it. Like the Democrats tried to steal the election by working with Russia. Well, now we know it was them. I mean, it's every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just never shocks me when, oh, well, they need to give it back and they need to do this and they're slashing. And no, sir, that's your regime.
Slashing and burning, baby. They're trying to burn the whole thing down.
Yeah.
They
Like
really are.
Muscatoon was running around, what was it, CPAC with a freaking chainsaw.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I did think it was interesting, though, that his kids were like, I've watched them over and over again. Like, look at him.
I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah. And what is with all of them? Musk, Hegseth, Trump, they all have a boatload of kids to multiple women, yet they are supposed to be the
Hegseth does
party
too.
of
I didn't know that.
Hmm?
I didn't know Hegseth had a bunch of kids.
Yeah, he's got like
Morning.
5 or 6 from, I think, 3 separate women.
We're just out here judging other people.
Yeah. So,
Yeah. And this is the week that actually still is, friends. This is the week that still is. We're just getting started. We're just getting started.
yeah. So we'll be back on Friday as long as we haven't ended up in a rubber room.
Yes. Yes, yes.
But we hope you all have a great week. And remember to stay loud, stay opinionated, and as always,
Add us later, baby.
that's a wrap on this episode of At Me Later. We drop new bite-sized episodes packed with news and sass every Tuesday and Friday. So make sure you're following us wherever you get your podcasts. And because we love validation, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review, and drop a comment to let us know what you think. It helps us more than you know. At Me Later is an A Collective production, and we'll be back in your ears soon. But until then, stay loud, stay opinionated, and as always, at us later. Like,
It is.
there we go. You mean Colonel Whiskey?